Hello everybody, this is just going to be a quick video showing kind of the basics in creating an Arcane Trickster character. I'm running through this and creating this video because somebody asked on the Discord, the Fantasy Grounds Discord server, how they'd go about doing this, so I'm just putting this together primarily to answer their question, but I thought I'd share it with everybody else as well. So there will be some areas that I'll kind of go through quickly to make sure that I can actually concentrate on the Arcane Trickster aspect of this character. So before I start, I'm going to do just a little bit data review, just to see what kind of things I should maybe select for an Arcane Trickster. Now, an Arcane Trickster is a rogue's racket, and that's available in the Advanced Player's Guide. And it's an option to one of the core rulebook classes, the Rogue. So I'm just going to go down to the Rogue, review that, Eldritch Trickster. Basically, you dabble in magic a bit, and you choose a multi-class archetype that has a basic expert and master spellcasting feat. You gain that archetype's dedication feat as a bonus feat, even though you don't meet its level, because normally you get dedication feats at second level. One of the key things here is you can choose the spellcasting ability score for the multi-class archetype you choose as your key ability score. So the key ability score for a rogue is dexterity, and I can use my spellcasting ability score as the key ability score for the archetype. So that's pretty cool. That's quite flexible. And we'll just double check on the core rules side what it actually means by those basic the various different basic spell casting archetypes. So we have under archetypes, there's these spell casting archetypes that grant this basic spell casting ability. Sorry, spell casting feats. You have a basic spell casting feat, an expert spell casting feat, and a master spell casting feat. So pretty much they're the if we look through them, they're the spellcasters from the core rules. So if we have a look at a bard, you get a bard dedication level 2, then you have a basic bard spellcasting, if we scroll down, expert bard spellcasting, master bard spellcasting. Similarly for a cleric, you have those, the basic bard, basic cleric, expert cleric spellcasting. Same for a druid. You have those spellcasting, and then if we have a look further down, there'll be a sorcerer, basic spellcasting, and there'll be a wizard. The basic spellcasting, expert spellcasting, etc. Just for this example, I'm going to add the wizard dedication feat to my Eldritch Trickster. Normally that would mean that I'd use my intelligence as my key ability, as my casting ability, but the Eldritch Trickster specifically says that you can use the class key ability for a rogue, which would be Dex. So that's quite handy. So that's really all I'm interested in, and like I said earlier, I'm going to kind of go through areas quickly that earlier on in the character creation before I add Arcane Trickster as a rogue racket to the character. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. So just close a couple of windows and get started. So go to the character window, just click the add item button there to start with my character. So we get the main character window, and we also get the charge end tracker. For those of you who aren't familiar with this, it's a very useful area where you can review what you're doing. It gives you feedback as to anything that's been added automatically or anything that you need to do manually, and it's a great place to just review what you've done and what you have to do as well. So like I say, I'm going to kind of go through the beginnings of this quite quickly. So ancestry, I'm just going to create a human. So as it says here, to start, add an ancestry, click the ancestry button above, and then click the add to PC button. So I'm just going to look at the ancestry. Now ideally, because I'm making a rogue, I want to have something that's going to have some dex. But just to keep things simple here, I'm just going to add a human. So they have 2 free ability boosts, so I'll be able to choose dexterity as part of that. If I want to see a bit more about a human, I can click the link to the left there and scroll down, and you get all of the information that's available in the core rulebooks for humans. So I'm just going to click add to PC. first thing it's going, well, a couple of things it's going to do. It's going to ask me to select my heritage, and it's also going to ask me to select my 2 ability scores. I'm just going to go with dexterity and wisdom for this rogue that I'm going to create. And then, there's your normal human heritages, and then there's all the versatile heritages that are available to you. I'm just going to go with skilled human. That's going to, you become trained in 1 skill of your choice. That's just to, as an example, just to kind of move through this portion of the character generation. So like I say, the charge end tracker is a very handy place just to look, just to slowly go through. Don't whiz through it, kind of read the information and see what you need to do, because it's a guide to creating your character and also letting you know what's been done automatically for you and what you need to do yourself. Now, kind of the gotcha in this is that it fills in the data from the bottom upwards. So you always get the most recent information at the top, but that can be a little bit confusing at first. Primarily the reason it does this is that the way this window works is it always, when you add data to it, it always shows at the top. There's no way of displaying kind of the information at the bottom, so it's kind of designed that way by necessity. And we can see that in bold is something that happens or something that needs to be done, and in red, big red, is something that you definitely need to do. So we added the human ancestry. It tells us, it's various data. It's added some data into the character. So we can see this here. It said ancestry feat, bonus languages. It's added the skilled heritage that we selected and that skilled heritage feature. And we'll see that coming up here. We did our ability boosts. It adds ancestry traits. We can see that here, human and humanoid. Traits, you can generally double click on them and it'll give you a lookup data about those traits. Speed of 25 is being set with size medium. We've got ancestry hit points of 8. So they've all been done. And this thing in red with the 3 pluses in front of it, add 1 ancestry feat. So it's telling me I need to add an ancestry feat and make that selection myself. So if I want to do that now, I can click this ancestry feat quick filter button. In the middle here, review these various different feats. And if I want to add it to the PC, I can click Add to PC there. I can also look at feats in the big long list, on the right here. Maybe search for feats if I know a specific feat I want to find. And then I could drag and drop that feat to my character sheet if I wanted to actually add it to the character sheet. So there's different ways to do it. You can drag and drop things, or you can use these buttons. So add ancestry feat, I'll just leave that for now. That's something you can add towards the end of the character creation once you've got all of your ideas together. And then, like I said, we added the skilled heritage feat. Skilled heritage, ancestry heritage to this character. And it basically is telling you here no automation's been applied. Check and manually apply if needed. So I'll just have a look at that skilled heritage feature down here. You become trained in 1 skill of your choice. So I can make a note of that, come back and do it later, or I can just go in here. Maybe I'm just going to train society. So I click on the proficiency column to T to train that society skill. So I've done that. The only thing I need to come back is add 1 ancestry feat later in this character generation. So that's ancestry and heritage. The next step is, so you see here the charge end tracker is guiding you in the steps that you need to do. The next step is to select a background. I'll click that, and it's something that I want, probably dexterity, something like that. I'm just coming down, going to select criminal. I can get dexterity or intelligence. I get experienced smuggler skill feat. I get trained in stealth, so that's all cool. I can add that to my character. I select what my first boost is. I'm going to select dexterity, and this time I'm going to go with constitution. Get a little boost on my fortitude saves and my hit points with that. And again, we have here, experienced smuggler added to tester, no automation applied. Check it and apply if needed. And there's a link here to the experienced smuggler ability. And that feat, and that experienced smuggler feats being added to my character as well. So I'll just click on that link and see why it couldn't add the automation. When the GM rolls your stealth check to see if a passive observer notices a small item, you have concealed. The GM uses the number rolled or 10, whichever is higher. So that's very situational. So that's just something that you and the GM are going to have to remember when you're hiding something. Um, the GM needs to use a 10 or the normal roll when they actually roll, whichever's higher. That's just something to keep in mind. We've trained background skill, lore, underworld. We've earned as well on the character. So you can see that here, lore, underworld's been trained, as well as stealth. So we've done all of those. So now, getting down to actually adding the rogue class and the Eldritch Trickster rogue racket. So again, the character gen tracker is guiding you in what you need to do next. So you've followed all of the messages here, made sure you've done everything there. Then you can move on to the next step. So we're going to create a rogue. Going to add that rogue to our character sheet. This will have done quite a few things. There's generally quite a few things to do with the class. It sets your key ability to dexterity. It sets the proficiency for perception to expert, fortitude to trained, reflex to expert, will to expert. Sets the weapon and armor proficiencies. It does say here, did not train skill stealth for tester. It already exists as trained or high proficiency. So that means I can actually train another skill that I want because I already was trained in stealth. So maybe I'll just go for intimidation. I'll just train that there. It does say train tester in a total of 7 skills. But add one more trained skill if you increase your intelligence in the final step, free boosts. So I'll just come back and do that. So I'll remember 7 skills, maybe 8 if I increase my intelligence. Add a rogue feat. So this would be a class feat. We can do that now. We can click on the class button and it shows you all the level 1 rogue class feats that I can select. But I'll come back and do that later along with my ancestry feat. Rogue's racket added to tester, and that's what this is here. We select a rogue racket. So this is where we actually make our selection of the Eldritch Trickster. So, sorry, I'll just finish what was in the background here in the charge end tracker. There was also add 1 skill feat, and it also says surprise attack has been added, but there's no automation to be applied. So we just need to be aware of that as well. That surprise attack allows you to, if you use deception or stealth for initiative, people haven't acted a flat-footed to you, so you need to handle that manually in your game. You'll notice that sneak attack has been added and automation has been applied, and here on the combat tracker we can see sneak attack, that basically if the target's flat-footed we do 1d6, add 1d6 precision damage. This will always be on this character unless you turn it off with that little button there, and if a target is flat-footed, has a condition that makes that target flat-footed in the combat tracker, then when you roll damage it will automatically apply that damage. And as you go up, this damage should increase in level at the appropriate levels. So, getting to the main area of this video. Sorry, we're like 13 minutes in already. This was supposed to be a quick video. So we're going to add an Eldritch Trickster to the character sheet. So we click the Rogue Racket, and we see that here. Class feature Eldritch Trickster added to tester. Generally, main things that are added, there's this line between the two. And it says some features may require manual additional editing. See the Racket Eldritch Trickster entering the class abilities. So abilities, class abilities, we've got Eldritch Trickster in here. So this is where we need to just go through and see what we need to do. The top paragraph is just background text. The second paragraph is what we actually need to do. So choose a multi-class archetype that has basic expert master spellcasting, like we went through earlier. You gain that archetype's dedication feat as a bonus feat, even though you don't meet its level prerequisites. Though you must meet its other prerequisites. Now, normally for dedication feats, we'd click this quick filter button, which would show us all the dedication feats that are available to us at our level. Normally dedication feats come in at level 2, we're level 1, so it doesn't show us anything. So we do need to go into the feats normal window, campaign data window, and we can filter by archetypes, so we can see the various archetypes in here. There's a lot in the APG. Like I said, I'm going to actually create a wizard. So we see all of the wizard archetype feats available, and there's the wizard's dedication there. So for this, we just drag and drop it into the charge end tracker. Primarily, that's a good place to just drop things, and then we're going to read what it tells us we need to actually do. So again, there's a bar put across here. This Wizard's Feat dedication added. Partial automation has been applied. Review the entry and manually apply. So we just need to kind of go through this wizard dedication, just make sure we've added everything there. You cast spells like a wizard, gain your spellbook with 4 common arcane cantrips of your choice. You gain the caster's spell activity. You can prepare 2 cantrips each day. You're trained in arcane spell attacks and spell DCs. Your spellcasting ability is int, but we know for Arcane Trickster we can use our class ability instead. Your spells are arcane. You become trained in Arcana. If you're already trained in Arcana, you can instead become trained in a skill of your choice. Now, the charge end tracker did say partial automation has been applied. So most spell casting tracking and spells are done on the actions tab. So we'll just go down to the actions tab here and see what we need to do. We see this wizard spell casting has now been created for us. That was created when we added the wizard dedication feat. There's some things that we just need to do in this because that's a standard wizard entry. So we can prepare 2 cantrips each day, and we have 4 common arcane cantrips. I'll come back to adding the 4 arcane cantrips, but we can prepare 2 a day. So I click on this number under the C, and I just add that to 2. And now you can see we've got a cantrips section here, prepared 0 of 2. We haven't got any spells prepared. So we'll just go through this. You're trained in arcane spell attack rolls and spell DCs. So yeah, trained. That's good. That's already done that there. Your key spell casting ability is int. It's not. It's dexterity for the Arcane Trickster. So I'll just cycle through the ability till we get round to dexterity. So now we've got a spell roll +6, DC of 16. When I do my free boosts, I'm going to add probably. I'm going to boost my dexterity up to 18, and that will change that to +4, so that's all in there. Your arcane they're arcane wizard spells, so the tradition arcane, yep, that's there already, that's great. You become trained in Arcana, so I'll go to skills and I'll train Arcana. Remember, I've still got those 7 training skills to train from my class. Go back to actions. If you're already trained Arcana, you can instead train the thing of your choice. Train a skill of your choice. So now really we just need to add common arcane cantrips. So I'll go to spells. Probably easiest here is to just click the arcane button, and this is going to list all of the cantrips up the top here. We need to just make sure that we select common ones. So uncommon would be in the traits if it wasn't a common cantrip. So these all look like they're common. I'm trying to find an example of an uncommon spell in here. There you go. Uncommon illusion. So normally traits are listed alphabetically, but the rarity is actually listed up front. So we just know that that's an uncommon spell there. So we can essentially select any of these spells. We can have 4 of them in our spell book, but we can only prepare 2 of them. So just randomly, I'm just going to add in Acid Splash, Mage Hand. So just click and drag them to the cantrip section on your character sheet. Daze, Detect Magic. And so that's 4 of them. These are in my spell book. Information about them, showing the actions. And we need to prepare 2 of them. So we change our mode from standard down here to preparation, and I'll prepare Acid Splash and Detect Magic. And now you can see that we prepared 2 of 2, so that's great. We can just use those. They're cantrips, so they don't get checked off when we use them, but we can just see that Acid Splash and Detect Magic are the prepared spells. Detect Magic really doesn't have much with it, but Acid Splash has a ranged spell attack and various damage and effects that can be applied based off the attack if you actually hit with Acid Splash. So that's essentially it, for the main Arcane Trickster. We've got those areas that we still need to go back through, add our skill feat, add our rogue feat, add our ancestry feat, train 7 skills plus an extra one if we add intelligence. So I'm just kind of going to finish the free boosts. We're going to go dexterity, constitution, wisdom. Maybe we will add intelligence as well, just to give us some more skills. Do you want to add the default class equipment kit? Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. And do I want to add thieves tools to that? Yes, I do. So that will have added in all of the various equipment there. I can see it's going to cost me 93 silver. So if that's what I want to stick with, I can just, reduce my amount of treasure, um, by 93 down to 57 in there. I can go and do my eight skills, train them here, maybe survival, thievery, religion, occultism, diplomacy, deception, just train up all of those 8 skills that I need to through here. Go back and decide on my ancestry feat that I want to add. Add my class feat as well, and add my skill feat. Now, skill feat, there's a lot to choose from. But this shows you all of the level 1 skill feats. It doesn't filter these based off prerequisites. It shows all of them. You still have to make sure that if you select one of these skills that you are trained in the appropriate skill. Just go through there. And that would pretty much be it. I don't think I've missed anything. Just going through everything there. And there you go. That's your Arcane Trickster all set up and ready to go. Hope this has been interesting. Thanks for watching.